When you open the pages of the Quran, you expect to read about monumental historical figures, right? One prophet gets treated differently than all the rest. Think about the massive, monumental figures in this tradition. You'd probably expect the ultimate focus to be on someone else, right? But the most uniquely treated figure, well, it's not Abraham. It's not Moses. Actually, it's not even Muhammad. So why is that? Why does this one specific prophet stand out so incredibly uniquely in the overall structure and language of this text?
To start unpacking that, we've got to look at the numbers. So Jesus, who is known as Isa in the text, is mentioned by name 25 times. 25. Meanwhile, Muhammad himself is named only 4 times. Just let that sink in for a second. 25 to 4. For the average reader, this is incredibly surprising. Honestly, it's a ratio that usually stops people right in their tracks when they first realize it.
Now, what's really interesting here is the number 34. That is the number of times Maryam, or Mary, the mother of Jesus, is named in the text. 34 times. I mean, think about the sheer cultural and historical weight of that. She is actually named more times in the Quran than she's mentioned in the entire New Testament. And it goes even deeper than just name drops. There's an entire chapter, a surah, named directly after her. It's called Surah Maryam. Out of all the chapters in the book, this is the only one in the entire text named after a woman. Every single other chapter bears a different kind of title, but Maryam stands entirely alone in this regard. It just brilliantly illustrates exactly how highly revered she and her story are within the entire framework of the text. But honestly, it's one thing to just count names, right? The real mystery begins when we slow down, keep our curiosity open, and look at what is actually being said about him. The frequency of his name, that's just the doorway. The language used to describe him, that is where things get genuinely astonishing. Let's see how this builds when we look at the actual words used. In Surah 4, verse 171, the text explicitly describes him as a word from Allah and a spirit from him. Really focus on those specific, exceptional descriptors for a second. These aren't just your standard, generic praises handed out to any wise teacher or prophet. Now, these are profound, entirely unique phrases applied specifically to him in this verse. It's language that elevates his identity into a category all its own within the text. And the exceptional attributes, they absolutely do not stop there. Let's actually check these off one by one because they are incredibly significant. First up, born of a virgin. The text doesn't hedge on this at all. It states the virgin birth clearly and unapologetically. Second, he is called al-Masih, or the Messiah. Third, he performs unmatched miracles. We're talking about miraculous acts on a scale that the text literally does not credit to any other prophet. Healing the blind, curing the sick, and even bringing life to clay birds. These are attributes tied directly and uniquely to his presence in the narrative. Then we have this incredible, forward-looking final trait. Islamic tradition holds that Jesus, and Jesus alone among all the prophets, is alive right now and will return before the end of days. Let's repeat that neutral contrast we brought up earlier, just because it's so vital to understanding his unique placement. When the end of days approaches, it is not Abraham who returns. It's not Moses. It's not Muhammad. It is Jesus. He's positioned not just as this revered figure of the past, but as the pivotal figure of the future. So, we have the Messiah, the unmatched miracles, the unique titles, and the promised return. That is an enormous amount of shared, common ground. So here is what we're going to do over the course of this season of The Explainer. We're going to take who Jesus actually is, piece by piece. We'll look at each of these claims honestly, side by side. And most importantly, we are not going to rush to a verdict. We're just genuinely asking what's here, unpacking the history and the text together in a safe, curious, and totally unhurried way. Which leads us perfectly to our final thought for today and exactly where we'll pick up next time. We're going to start with the very first unique trait we just discussed, how he entered the world in the first place. Both traditions completely agree he was born of a virgin. But here's the thing, almost nobody stops to ask why that specific detail actually matters. If you strip away all the assumptions, why does it matter that he was born this way? What is the text trying to tell us about who he is? That's exactly what we will uncover in our next explainer. I really hope you'll join me to find out.